1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3. Lightbox ni hapa. Ni kukonda bro. Siku nitapata do. Ni kukonda msee. Allah 701. Oh, sorry. Hey, asana kam. Na wazoom. Aya. Right, it's just after 7 o'clock in Nairobi, and you're just on time for your world this Thursday, the third day of the month of June. Now, pregnancy and childbearing has traditionally been viewed as a female issue. As a result, discussions on support programs around teenage parenthood are always centered on the teenage mother. But where does this leave the boy? What happens to the boy who is now supposed to step up and shoulder fatherhood responsibilities? Let's talk teenage and fatherhood. My name is Victor Kiprop, and this is Your World. Coming up, becoming a father in your teens. We dissect the experience, the challenges, and the lessons of becoming a father when you least expect it. Israeli opposition parties seal a last-minute coalition deal to unseat Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And displaced persons find shelter at the UNHCR camp in Rwanda. And fresh from his acquittal at the ICC, former Ivory Coast president is expected back at home, but another 20-year corruption sentence awaits him. Right, teenage and fatherhood, that's what we're talking about this morning, and we want you to be part of that conversation by tweeting us at NTV Kenya and at Victor Kiprop _ using the hashtag #NewNormal on our question of the day. We ask you, we'll get you the right question of course. Did you become a father during your teenage years, and how did that impact your life? Did you become a father during your teenage years, and how did that impact your life? You can tweet us at NTV Kenya and at Victor Kiprop _ use the hashtag #NewNormal. You could also follow the conversation on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Later on, our lines will be open if you feel the need to call in, of course, and be part of the conversation. But for now, let's give you an update of the coronavirus situation in Kenya and across the world. These are the latest numbers according to Corona Tracker: 177,424,472. That is the number of people who have been confirmed with COVID-19 so far across the world. 155,266,257 of them have recovered so far. And sadly, we've lost 3,706,561 people to COVID-19 so far across the world. Let's bring the situation closer home now. And in Kenya, 171,226 people have been confirmed with coronavirus in Kenya. These are the latest numbers according to the Ministry of Health. 117,039 people have recovered both at home and in hospitals, but sadly we've lost 3,206 people to COVID-19 in Kenya. Remember that since the 13th of March, when the first COVID-19 case was reported in Kenya. We continue to remind you to follow the protocol set out by the Ministry of Health, which includes washing your hands or sanitizing as regularly as you can, masking up at all times, and maintaining the 1.5 meters social distance. Let's now start you out with this, of course, top stories from Africa and across the world. And Israeli opposition parties have reached an agreement to form a new government that would end Benjamin Netanyahu's 12-year tenure as prime minister. About 35 minutes before Wednesday midnight deadline, Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid reached a historic deal with Mansour Abbas, the head of the United Arab List, to form the coalition, which will still need to be approved by the Israeli parliament in a vote that is expected to take place as early as next week. Though Lapid holds the mandate to form the government under the agreement, it is Naftali Bennett, the leader of the small right-wing party Yamina and the kingmaker in the coalition talks, who is set to become the prime minister for the first 2 years after over 4-year term. Israel's latest political drama adds to the woes of Netanyahu, who is on trial for criminal charges of fraud, bribery, breach of trust while in office. Accusations he denies. Let's keep you updated with our continued coverage of the volcano eruption in Goma, that is in the DRC, and displaced persons who fled Rwanda following the eruption of the Nyiragongo volcano in the Democratic Republic of the Congo city of Goma continue to receive aid in a camp set up by the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR. Almost 400,000 people have been displaced so far by the volcanic activity.
UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, continues to assist thousands of people affected by the eruption of the Mount Nyiragongo volcano near the city of Goma in the Democratic Republic of the Congo on May 22nd.
The volcano erupted and the tremors were horrible. At night, we could not sleep, and during the day, houses will just collapse.
An estimated 450,000 people have fled Goma. Around 120,000 of those have arrived in the neighboring town of Sake in the eastern province of North Kivu. Around 8,000 also crossed the border into Rwanda, though the majority have since returned.
We saw flames exploding from Nyiragongo volcano at midnight. The fire was raging, killing people and destroying fields and crops, as well as houses and villages. We then fled to Rwanda to save our lives.
Most of the displaced are currently being sheltered by host families, while others are staying in overcrowded churches and schools. Displaced people are in urgent need of housing and basic items like sleeping mats, blankets and kitchen utensils, which were lost in the volcanic eruption.
All our belongings were destroyed, including all the household things and all the food we had in our houses. All our goats were killed. We left everything behind.
Dozens of families are stuck at the border crossing to return home. However, a crisis management cell set up by the North Kivu authorities said that alert status is still red, meaning that people are advised not to return home. The city has experienced more than 1,000 earthquakes and tremors following the eruption, most of them small, but some strong enough to level buildings. Many houses were flattened by the lava flow, but many more had to leave following the evacuation order for the 8 areas of Goma that are most at risk should another eruption hit the city. Scientists fear a possibly catastrophic eruption under the floor of nearby Lake Kivu.
Now to another story that we've been keenly following. The Pan-African Parliament elections that were to be held in Johannesburg were suspended for a second day on Tuesday. This follows disagreements between members of parliament that began on Monday over the rotation of the presidency, I beg your pardon. The legislators, who were kicking and hurling insults at each other, claimed that the presidency has rotated between the West and East African regions, leaving out the West. Some parliamentarians who wrestled over the ballot box declared that there will be no election if the leadership position is not rotated. With violence making the environment unconducive for credible elections, the elections were suspended. Lights turned off and MPs asked to leave. Now formed in 2004, the Assembly was meant to be the legislative branch of the African Union, but in reality, it is merely a consultative body. To the west part of the African continent now, and 10 years after he was arrested and handed to the International Criminal Court facing charges of crimes against humanity, the Ivory Coast government now says former President Laurent Gbagbo can return whenever he wishes. Bagbo, a highly controversial figure in Ivory Coast, where he was forced out a decade ago after more than 3,000 people died in post-election violence, is expected to return on June 17th following the acquittal in March this year. Bagbo's return could be complicated by an outstanding 20-year sentence given in absentia in November 2019 by an Ivorian court for misappropriating funds from the regional central bank. To the central part of the African continent now, and Burundi has reopened its Gatumba border with the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, from the town of Uvira on Tuesday, following a long period of closure due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Foreigners entering Burundi through the Gatumba border will now have to pay $30 for a COVID-19 test, while Congolese living in Burundi will be allowed to return to the DRC through the border free of charge. The Gatumba border was closed in March 2020 as part of the fight against the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, but the DRC side of the border was reopened in August last year. Right, teenage and fatherhood, that is what we want to talk about. And as I briefed you earlier on, the conversation around teenage parenthood sometimes or largely is centered on the teenage mother and the support programs as well. But often forgotten is the teenage father who now needs to step up and pick up parental responsibilities and shoulder the huge responsibilities of being a father. And most of the times they are forgotten in the conversation. But not in this conversation on your wall, because that's what we want to talk about this morning. And we have two gentlemen who became fathers while they were teenagers, and they're about to tell us their stories of how they survived the challenges they faced and the lessons that they can, of course, impart to others. We also have another guest who will be giving advice on how exactly you can go around being a father in case, of course, you become a father at your teens. This morning, I'm joined in studio by Kennedy Osano. Good morning, Kennedy. Welcome to the show.
Good morning to you.
All right, we'll also be joined in a short while by Alessandro Alocho Santo. Is an artist who also became a father when he was 19. And joining us virtually this morning is CJ Atemo, who is a life coach. Good morning, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you doing?
All right. Let's just start here. I think of interest to everybody, of course, perhaps, is to first listen to your story. But just before we get to listen to that story, of course, from Ken, we also want you at home to be part of this conversation. We want you to engage us on social media. And if you're not on social media, of course, you can call in. That's why we ask you today on our question of the day, did you become a dad while you were a teenager? And how, of course, while you were a teenager, beg your pardon, and how did that change your life? Did you become a father while you were in your teenage years? And how did that impact your life? You can tweet us at NTV Kenya and at Victor Kiprop _. Make sure you use the hashtag #NewNormal so that we could see all the tweets that you send us. And if you're not on Twitter, you're surely on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram, you're certainly on Facebook. If you're not on social media or even YouTube, you can call in or text in and be part of this conversation on teenage and fatherhood. And Ken, let me just begin with you. You became a father at 18. Is that right? 17. Oh,
Yeah.
17.
Yeah.
Just talk to us about that experience. How did you feel the first time you were told that, hey, Chief, you're actually going to be a father now?
Basically, what happens is you don't know what you get yourself into initially. You think it's just the normal things that teenagers do. Then you realize that, hey, this is it. So it's a matter of confusion because you see you are still under somebody's care. You're still under your guardian's care or your parents' care.
Were you at home at this point?
I used to live with my brothers. So when I didn't tell them, but they had, because definitely I was still in school. And they thought that was the biggest joke that has ever happened to them. But when it picked and the girl was born, is when everything else started being clear.
Yeah.
So first of all, you are taken to school to get good grades, but you come back with a child, which nobody will appreciate.
So at 17, you were in Form
4.
Form 4. Okay.
Yes, Form 4. So that itself complicates the issue. Me being an orphan, I was being taken care of somebody else.
Yes.
So somebody's taking care of you, but
Stepping
you also
up.
and also going to bring kids instead of bringing good grades. So that's first. Then society doesn't appreciate such moves. It is an element of being spoiled or being immoral. So those are the things that came at the moment. But to me, it was just I didn't know what I got myself into initially. Yeah.
Okay. So now, what was the reception of your brothers who were under your care? I'm very curious about that. First of all, they were all your
the elder, all my elder brothers. So
some of them had families?
No.
They didn't have families?
I'm the last brother. They was the first one to get a child. So, yeah. But I can say that they formed a very good support system after realizing that this cannot be changed. Most of the things and what I became is after looking up to them. They said, okay, first, this has happened, so what do we do from going on? From here, how do we go forward? So they formed a very good support system. One thing, they were clear that myself and the girl must finish school, so which we did. I finished my school and even went and passed again. I went back and rewinded Form 4.
So at some point you had to stop your studies?
No. I didn't stop. The lady had to stop the studies, but I didn't stop the studies. Because you see, the burden of raising a child or bringing up a child is basically on the mother. So because she had to breastfeed and stuff. Me, I just went and finished school. My first attempt, I didn't do so well. But then the second attempt, I passed. So yeah. The reaction from my brothers was like, yes, this is not what we expected, but we have to move on from here. First of all, for you to be a good father, you must be educated and you must pass your exam and get a good job. Yes.
Wonderful. That is incredible because that's the support that most people do not find. And guess who's in studio with us this morning? Alessandro Alocho Santo, famous as Madosho, of course, I believe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Unakaa msanii proper.
Kabisa.
Okay. Wacha tusikie kutoka kwako sasa. Mtoto ako na miaka ngapi sasa?
Ako na 10.
10 years.
Yeah.
So ulimpata ukiwa na miaka ngapi wewe?
Around 1920.
1920.
Yeah.
Chief. Ulikuwa umejipanga?
Wapi. Bado nilikuwa chuo. Alafu mama Jo akakama akanichapia alikuwa chuo.
Ulikuwa form?
Actually nilikuwa form 3.
Form 3.
Yeye alikuwa form 1. Akanipiga na surprise kwanza.
Ulikuwa wapi?
Tulikuwa tumetinga chuo. Then tuko ka holiday mtaani. Akaniambia, Jo kamenuka manze. Ikabaki Jo, pia mimi nimemdhigiza ikakuwa. Wenda kidato kibak, tutachapiana. Sasa venye alibak ikakuwa Jo, madhangu amenauo, madhake amenauo, ikakuwa wakai chini. Kunao ni kujua.
Okay.
Ikabaki wakai chini wachapiane, tukakalishwa pia si chini. Ikakuwa mi actually nilikuwa nishajuanga kukuwa responsible. Because siblings wangu at a time nilikuwa mimi ndo naangalia. So ile responsibility nilikuwa grew up nayo.
When you first born?
Mimi ni first born.
So reaction ya mother ilikuwa nini?
Mother aliniuliza Jusame kam utadujea. Ikakuwa tu sisha kam itabaki tu nisha manap.
Okay.
Nisiruke pia ngori.
And I think they bring in CJ Atemo at this point. Chris, I think the common thing, of course, perhaps between the two of them, first of all, is the acceptance that, you know, it has happened and I have to take responsibility and be a father, even at my age.
Everton.
Yes. I can hear you.
Well, I must say I'm still struggling to hear you very well. If you would repeat the question for me.
Yes, I was saying if you heard from the two gentlemen, I think the most important and the starting point for them was the first, of course, accepting that indeed, you know, it has happened and I have to now, of course, shoulder the responsibility and take up my responsibility.
First, I've got to say, you see, when what fatherhood is all about makes it quite a challenge for somebody who is in their teenage to embrace that. I've got to give it to them for having stayed on, or you're there, being a teenage father and you're there, because the first thing that people will see or think is that you have interfered with the life of a girl. Most probably when you're a teenage father, you're not making somebody pregnant who is probably 30 or 40.
Yeah.
They probably are just your age, so they're also either teenagers or something. And so the first thing that happens with them is this castigation that comes with having messed up somebody else's life, and then it seems like the teenage father, their life moves on. But the emotional aspect of that fatherhood is not looked at. People look at the fact that he's not the one who's pregnant, he can go on with school.
Yeah.
But a father would still have the attachment to the child. So when they are pushed off, for example, in most cases, that people would feel like, let's push him off. You know, we don't want you near our daughter. You made her pregnant. They disconnect him from this child and immediately then spiral a certain emotional reaction. The second thing that this person has to deal with, apart from that disconnect, the fact that they're being castigated, they're also dealing with the inability to be there as a father in the way that they feel that they should, which is to provide. As a teenage, you don't have your money, you know, you don't have your money, you don't have your job. So how are you going to be there? And probably the only way that you know how to be there, or how you feel you should be there, is financial. There's the third aspect of, you know, who does he open up to? When a girl becomes pregnant, it is easy, or rather easier at some point to talk about it because the pregnancy will be visible. But for the boy, how does he come back home and talk to a father or a mother and say, look, I made somebody pregnant somewhere? So really, the teenage dad issue throws the boy into quite some emotion and begins to feel helpless. He begins to feel like, you know, how am I going to deal with this? And that inability can really, really wreck a child or a boy. And sometimes even the girl herself will not want to see him again because he's not able to buy the diapers, he's not able to pay for the hospital bills, he's not able to do anything.
Yeah, and Chris,
I think it would be good if, for example, it would be good if we are able to reach out to offer, first of all, the emotional support to these teenage dads and let them know, okay, well, this has happened. What do we do going forward? Probably allow them to, with guidance, connect with the children. So that at least from the emotional perspective and the emotional connection and aspect, they are also receiving help. That would be the first place for us to, you know, begin to handle that.
And Chris, from that emotional perspective, because clearly, even before we get to the financial, there's the aspect of emotional. Yes, my family might support me to provide for this kid. But at 18, you're still a boy. You need, you know, someone else to provide for you emotionally, a father to be there for you, to stand by you, to guide you. And suddenly you're supposed to start giving this same thing, you know, to someone else who's now your son or your daughter, something that you may not even have.
Well, you see, when we the financial part is just one aspect of parenting. Sometimes you could even be 40, but you've lost your job. For example, in this season of COVID, you could be 30, but you don't have money. It doesn't mean that you will not be present for your children. Mm-hmm. It is important for a child to have the connection both with the mother and the father. When you're 18 or 17, you most probably are still trying to find yourself, and you're not even emotionally totally conscious of who you are. You're trying to find your balance. But there's something about parenting that it brings you to your element. The moment you realize that you're responsible for somebody else's life, it begins to shape your decisions. And I think that is what the teenage dad also needs to be taught and to embrace, that you're now responsible for somebody else's life, not necessarily financially, but you're going to have to be involved in this life in terms of shaping, in terms of being present with them, bonding with them, being there, holding the child, carrying the child, you know, just participating in the development of this child. Okay. That you may not have money, but you have you bring your presence, because every child must be modeled, and they are modeled by the people that they see. First of all, their parents. They need to be socialized in a certain way. Yeah. How does this child develop character? How does this child develop personality? How does this child develop confidence? How does this child grow knowing that they are wanted? So the teenage dad should be told, you're now no longer only responsible for your life. Somebody else is here. And we're not going to put pressure on you right now financially, but you need to connect. And that's why I talked about the guiding. Because at that point, even this teenage dad is still trying to find his life. Yeah. We cannot demand of him 100% presence in that place. But he needs to be told that it's important for you to be there, play with the baby, hold the baby, have eye contact, speak to the baby, let the baby hear your voice, so that the connection begins there. Because most of them will disappear. Then when they're probably stable financially, they try to come back into the life of a child who would not necessarily want to connect with them.
Okay. All right. Let me just come back to you, Ken, because the difference between the two of you and maybe other people is the choice that you made, which is to become a responsible father. I'm going to take, you know, the responsibility and become the father to this child. But that must be a bit hard because, I mean, you're 17. And out there, you see your other friends in Form 3, Form 4, their parents checking them out for shopping and all that. But wewe pandei unafaa uanze ukue mzazi. And sometimes I get to hear these stories of people asking, "Ay, mimi ni baba ya mtu kweli?" A whole other human being.
I think the society has graded fatherhood to mean financial provision. And that's a narration or a narrative that has to be changed. Fatherhood is more than just provision, material provision. Fatherhood is being there when your child is born, creating values and impacting values that will make the child excel in this world. Fatherhood is being at your child's best moments and first moments. So at 17 years, yes, you might not know what is going on, but you know very well that actions have consequences. So what I got is right from high school, from my schoolmates, my seniors in school, that everybody told me that you must be there. Mm-hmm. I think Mel was born on a Friday, and on Saturday we were there. Me and my schoolmates. Mm-hmm. I used to be in school in Naivasha, so the girl was born in Nairobi. So we sneaked out of school, me and a few schoolmates of mine, and went to the Hosi to see the kid. And I don't think I've ever seen the best moment than that so far.
And that's important because I mean those are your friends literally standing by you.
Yes.
Because I mean the other reverse scenario would be huyu jamaa ameanza kukua baba. I mean si mse tutakuwa na yeye tena jipange bro.
Yeah, the success of a father at that age depends on the support system you have. Me, I was lucky to have very upright brothers. I was lucky to have very upright friends, and I was very lucky to have Mel's mother who was very supportive as well. So yes, you are scared because you don't know, because you're raising a generation. You're not raising a child, you're raising a generation. But you don't know how. Mine was complicated because I was not brought up in a family setting per se. But now you have to bring a child and tell him these are the values that is expected from you. So it's a scary moment. But when friends, there were friends who would say, this one is another one. The parents would say, don't hang out with this boy because he's going around making people pregnant. But for you to be successful in this venture of parenthood, you have to look at the future of the child, because one mistake, one absence when you don't, for example, her graduation from pre-unit to whatever, if you don't attend it, it messes her perception about fatherhood forever. So as the gentleman said, we looked at it, or I looked at fatherhood from the perspective of being there. I didn't have much to offer even for myself. Yeah. But the only thing we had for her was love. And love and an undying hope that in the one day when fate turns on our favor, we'll give her the best.
Okay. And that's beautiful because I mean, you recognize the fact that you can be a father, you know, aside from those financial responsibilities. But outside there, and Madocho would tell you, and you've already mentioned, of course, fatherhood has sometimes been equated with your ability to provide. So if you cannot provide, you start feeling some sort of less of a father, isn't it, Madocho?
Kweli. Unajua pia huyo piki ni mtoi sasa. Pia kuna venye ana look up to you kaa bazenga wake. Na mi, I didn't grow up with my dad, unajua. So pia kupata kujua mzae wangu, nilimjua for kitu ka 3 months, then he passed. So sikukuwa na ile connection. So I didn't want hiyo kwa umtoi. I wanted her akigrow up aone, daddy kuna vitu poa sana yenye naweza na uona mzae wangu. Mzae wangu kuna vitu anaweza nchanua nayo. Mzae wangu atakuwa hapo, mzae wangu atakuwa protection yangu.
Swali nzuri hapo ni wakati ulipata kwamba sasa anaelekea kupata mtoto, what was the reaction ya familia? Kwa sababu kuna wale wanaona kama huwezi provide, wacha sisi tukae na mtoto
familia. Side ya mama ikakuwa, unajua bado kuna ile malawama. Mbona mlidu hivyo? Ikakuwa walikaa chini na madhangu, both parties wakaelewana. Ikakuwa tuko chuo, but mimi ni madechuo na pia mama pia ya madechuo. Ikabaki ni msuke. After akishaangalia mtoi ashazaliwa, akamwangalia, ikabaki tena ni msuke, nimwambie wewe rudi chuo uchop. Juu yeye ni chopi mbaya. Ikabaki amerudi chuo. Sa ule mpikini hivi alizaliwa jo, mind yangu ili change.
They say fatherhood changes you.
Ili change tu, yani nikakuwa hizi vitu na do hazitakuwa reflection fiti. Itabaki nimebadilika, nikuwe mse different. Ndo mtoi grow up aki look up to me.
Okay. And maybe the beautiful thing about both your families were they were able to sit down and agree and realize that both of you are still young and you still need to continue with your education, and your parents should give you the support. But sometimes that support is lacking. Chris, I'm sure you've had this kind of stories where you're a 19-year-old, but now because you're a father and you have a child, your father tells you, you have decided to become another man. I told you to go to school, but you decided to become another man, so get out of my house and start your own family.
See, just like with every other form of leadership, sometimes you have to lead into spaces that you have not been in. And there are a lot of things that you also learn while making mistakes. And I think it is important as well to allow the teen fathers, as we begin to grow, they will make certain mistakes. And it's important to allow that because it's part of the growth process. Not to be too hard on themselves. Nobody becomes a perfect father, if there's anything like that. Nobody becomes that overnight. We grow into those roles. We grow in knowledge. We grow in emotional intelligence. We grow in mental stability. You've got to really be mentally stable, to take care of somebody else at the same time. And it depends on the various things that are happening around the child. Sometimes you've got this child who is always in hospital. Sometimes you've got a child who has delayed development, those kind of things. How do you handle that when you're a teenager? Are you built for that? So it's important to just have what I would call some leeway for the teen father to grow into this role. This is where, Victor, the role of mentors, and sometimes you may not do that with your own biological father, but the role of mentors, the older men in the society, uncles, bigger brothers, people who are the people who have been in it, like Kennedy, people who have been in it, somebody who has been there before, would be very helpful. Just trying to help this teenage dad through the emotions that they have. But then again, they need to also now understand what role are they going to play in the life of the mother of that child. Is it something that just happened? Do they want to, develop a relationship that would then eventually go into the space of marriage? Or is it something that, he'll just from afar, from a distance, decide that I will be there for this child and I don't want anything to do with the mother. Probably I still have another 5 to 7 years to go to school. What plans? This now is where the mentorship really, really comes in. And it's important to involve families as much as possible. It's important to involve families. Involve your uncles if you can't talk to your dad or if your dad is not present. If you only have your mom and you've talked to your mom, let her find certain other men who would play that role in your life, because something now needs to happen into the future. And you see, you don't become a father for just 2 weeks or something. It's not something you're going to sign off from. You're going to be a father for life. So you need to know, how do you pace yourself? What do you do? What plans do you need to set in place? Are you going to, have to defy your schoolwork after high school or something and college and try and get some job and then begin to fend for this child? Do you want to take the child to yourself and raise the child by yourself if you're still not able to take care of the mother as well, or if you do not want to be with the mother? There are a lot of decisions that need to be made there that will require mentorship for this teen dad. But again, even as we mentor them, we have to allow them to make decisions by themselves. I don't think that, for example, somebody has to be forced to get into a relationship because of the child. Because if, for example, this dad became a dad at 16 years, they probably do not even understand the implications of their decisions. They were not thinking long term. They were just overwhelmed by emotion and they got caught up in a situation. There's now a baby over here. They probably were not thinking of the consequences. They were just, overwhelmed at that particular point. It would not also be fair to force this teen dad to go a certain direction, because then he will not really be involved. And he's going to hurt, for example, he would be hurtful to the girl as well. So I believe, and I would advise that families be involved at this stage, and the older people in the family and the society, those uncles, those older cousins, mentors, should come in and just try and guide the whole situation.
About the emotional aspect. Maybe for the two of you guys, aside from your mom and your brothers, did you have someone else you could talk to? Perhaps a pastor, a friend, a mentor?
I would not say a pastor or a mentor, because at 17 years you're pretty young. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. You don't even know you need a mentor.
I don't even know what a mentor is, mm-hmm. apart from what you write in composition. But I had a friend called Victoria Tijara.
Yeah.
She was my classmate. So first of all, when the news that the girl was pregnant came in, she told me we are getting a baby. So she became part and parcel of the values that I was supposed to have. And one of them, she told me, fatherhood is not hard. But she lied on that. But she was one person I would talk to. I was scared of my brothers because, first of all, to me, I'd disappointed them. They had so much hopes in me. Instead of coming with good grades, I'm coming with bad grades and a kid. And then again, everybody...
bonus.
Yeah, a huge bonus. But to be fair, the success of any teenage father, or lack of it, depends on the families. At 17 years old or 19 years for the gentleman, he have nothing to offer for the child. Not direction, not finances, not values. So anything that you're going to take, or any direction you're going to take, or lack of it, will depend on how these families are going to let you go. Two, the society, including the church, for that matter, and I stand corrected, might not want to associate with you.
Oh, they will be the first ones
to condemn you. Most of us who got into this thing didn't even know what we are doing. But you see, as the gentleman say, it is a lifetime job. So the society, I would not say, even the teachers were not very impressed with me, that, yeah, they had hopes in me. Yeah, you've been the good, one of the best students. But now you have a kid in Form 4 and you're going to sit for KCSE, sorry. So the institutions that we've been looking for mentorship and guidance actually shun you first. The church, the school, even the chief and staff will say, you are the one spoiling girls. In my case, the lady was older than me. So actually I was the one being spoiled according to society, but the blame always rests on the man. Now, what we did with my friends and my brothers, or I would say with my family and her family basically, was to say that this is it. So what do? We raise the child. And the journey has been beautiful.
Okay. Bro, at that point, hakuna mse anataka kuongea na wewe. Aside from your mother, who of course atakuwa amekukasirikia. Ulikuwa na mse mwingine unaweza muelezea shida zako, hata akupatie direction kidogo hivi?
So unajua, me even niligrow up na gukangu. Na when grow up na gukangu, ilibaki nimelearn from him. He was the father figure kwangu. Then apparently pia alidedi. Saa nikipata firstborn wangu, sikukuwa na hawa wase wa kuongelesha. Kwanza watu walikuwa wananijudge. Alafu unajua nilikuwa mrui mbaya. Nilikuwa mauru mbaya. Sasa pia mimi sikukuwa na jali. Wewe ukibanja, wewe banja. Sasa kuna wisdom words tu gukangu alikuwa anacheza na eka ikabaki mimi
mwenyewe na wewe hata baada ya kuko.
Mimi mwenyewe nikamanap tu nikasema kaa kuna time nilikuwa naangalia ama siblings wangu. Nilikuwa na take care of them. Huyu wangu atanishindaje na ni blood yangu. Ikakuwa nita create bond na mtu wangu. Na actually ananipenda mbaya. Mimi kwangu siku mind ati mtu yeye amekam ati nini. Mimi nilikuwa don't care. Nilikuwa najali humtoi na madhaki. Hao ndio watu wanamata kwa life yangu. Hao wengine watabanja, watachoka. So kwa hiyo jani nilikuwa najitrain. Kama ni mtu anataka hii najitrain tu na yeye. Mpaka ikakam nikazoea.
But sometimes unapata focus kidogo inakuwa kwa mama wa mtoto, kwa sababu kila mtu anaona yeye ndio anabeba mimba, yeye ndio anafaa kuongeleshwa polepole, anapatiwa hiyo kama mentorship ama advice. Anafaa watu wakae chini wamsikilize, anafaa apatiwe financial support. Alafu unapata baba pande ile nyingine, sana kwa wale ambao wameamua ku step up na kukua kwa maisha ya mtoto, hakuna mtu anakumbuka. I mean venye Ken amesema si wewe maisha yako iko normal, I mean si wewe unabeba mimba, si wewe umeacha shule.
Inakuanga hivyo. Sasa unachiki mama kwake, madhake ali step up akachukua responsibility ya ku take care of mama na mtoi mpaka tumade. So yeye alikama up akasema yacheze kae, but kulikuwa na zile wewe umeniharibia mdota. So unajua sasa hizo madhigidhaga tu. Ikakuwa wewe umeniharibia mdota. ikakuwa tena tulikam tukabanja, nikamwambia at the end of the day tulifanya hiyo mistake, nyinyi mnaona ni mistake, but kwangu si mistake.
Okay.
It happen with a reason. To me it's not a mistake. Kwao ni mistake. But sahi unajua hiyo mistake waliona, sahi ni blessings.
Ken, there's often a problem with the way we see things, and we tend to see it as though teenage parenthood only affects, and of course it largely affects, rightfully so, the life of the mother, because I mean they're the ones carrying the pregnancy and all that. But if you decide to step up as a father and be part of this child's kid, there is definitely an impact, both in your schoolwork, if it was a career, sometimes it has to stop if it was any other way of your life, and that part tends to be overlooked.
It is most of the time, because as he's saying, first of all, you'll be asked, why have you, for lack of a better word, spoilt my daughter? That's first. And there's nothing, as much as you're young and you're a father, most of the time between the pregnancy and the time is born, the girl's family will always try to keep a distance between you and the girl. There's that emotional gap. You want to be here, but you can't, because first of all, you don't have money. Second, you don't have contractual capacity, so nobody can take you seriously. Second, you don't have hope. Like he's saying, you're a young person. He was not as a good guy. I was also in school, and they didn't know the direction I'm going to take. So that burden, that the emotional gap that it creates by pushing you away. Normally, the girl's parents will push you away first, unless the girl insists. So they'll push you away because to them, you are the barrier to the girl's success. You've made the girl not accomplish her goals, school and any other things, and they see it that getting pregnant is the end of it. So unless you have a sober-minded person who will come and say, okay, we also need this guy, but most of the time they'll push you away. They'll blame that, as much as I don't support pregnancy in teen, because it's chaos. I'll tell you, is chaos. Is more than chaos. It's like somebody jumping into the night and not knowing whether you'll meet a night runner or a lion or what. But should it happen, I will authoritatively ask that both the father and the mother be involved. The reason why we have so many teenage mothers on their own, because the family pushes away the father. Not just by deeds, but even by action, by words. For example, if today I was to sit with Mel's mom in a table and say, yes, I'm 17, she's 20, the girl is pregnant. Not so many people even noticed that Mel's mom was older than me. Now, the burden of raising the child is solemnly left with the mother, because the society believes that young fathers cannot do anything. So the question is, what if the two are brought together, mentored together, and asked to take this journey together? Would we still have this stigma that we're having? Definitely not. Yeah.
Chris, definitely the mother of the child, the teenage mother, bears, of course, the bigger responsibility, and the one that their life is much more impacted, because they are the person carrying this child. But it doesn't change the fact that this father of the child and the mother are both teenagers. Do we tend to put all our love and support on the mother and we forget about the father?
Generally, yes, and for various reasons, because she immediately is nearly the most impacted and affected. She has to carry this weight. Her whole life changes at that particular point, because she now becomes a very delicate person. She has a life growing within her. She's going through all these changes. And unlike a father, whom we can talk about, he needs to just be present and visit and come in, she can't detach herself from this life that is growing within her. And the changes that are happening within her, even for mature ladies, they're tremendous. I mean, even for a lady who is already at 30, the changes that come with pregnancy, and every pregnancy is totally different. You could even be in your third pregnancy and encountering and experiencing absolutely different changes from what you went through when you had your first child or the second. So at that particular point, mostly, I think it's just nearly natural to see the girl as a victim at that point and need support. Though, again, socially, we are wired to, run to aid the lady when she has an issue. But pregnancy, we've got to just admit that it is not the easiest thing for this person to carry at that particular point. And so I think in the panic, the initial mode is to secure the girl first, because the boy does not seem, and I use the word seem very, very keenly, the boy does not seem to be in any danger. I talked about how he will be affected emotionally and mentally, but in the immediate, he doesn't seem to be in any danger. So I think it's just the natural reaction of either fear, anxiety, and the initial panic that will throw people to give all the support to the lady at that particular point. And as been said, the onset, you look at the boy as, he is the aggressor, and you look at him as the person who has messed up this girl's life at that particular point. Nobody's going to believe that they're in love. Nobody's going to believe that he has a plan. Nobody's going to think that, he needs help, he needs counseling, he needs mentorship, he needs some of them to even go through therapy. Nobody's thinking about that at that particular point. They're just thinking this is the boy who used this girl. So the girl is the victim of what the boy did. So that is what then would draw people naturally to want to offer the support for the girl at that onset.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. I have to get some quick feedback before we take a break. But just before we do that, for anyone who is watching, definitely you guys were not ready to be fathers, isn't it?
Nothing ready is you. Nothing.
But at this point, do you guys regret anything?
No.
No.
Not at all.
I think that is the most beautiful thing of being a father, and seeing the excitement in the girls' eyes anytime you go for Parents' Day, anytime you come home from work.
Yeah.
I think I would not choose anything else.
If given the choice, you wouldn't?
I would repeat it again.
Wonderful. Let's get to see some of the feedback you've been sending us. Remember, we asked you on our question of the day, did you, of course, become a father during your teenage years, and how has that impacted your life? Cyrus Mosetti on Twitter says, this is the best thing that has happened to me because it helped me be more responsible and focused. I really don't regret. Thank you, Cyrus Mosetti there. Yes, Kennedy Jose says, it makes you focused. I have been seeing one around my area. Hakuna laziness. Thank you, Kennedy Jose there. And yes, those are the two quick feedbacks we could sample for the moment, but I think they are all in agreement with you that they do not regret.
No, I don't regret.
All right, beautiful. We have to go for a quick break, but when we come back, we talk about the issue of finances, how much of a challenge that was trying to raise a child when you are another child. And of course, we close the conversation with how we can offer more support to teen dads. Don't go anywhere, because Madocho, Ken, and CJ Atemo are staying with me.